Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is Tuesday, obviously, right? So obviously we had to make a quick adjustment as of yesterday with our broadcast that normally we would be live on Monday. But that's good to know that we could still make it happen. So we are back here broadcasting results with Rouse. And you all, I am honored yet delighted as we continue to, I always say, strive and thrive. And obviously we're going and growing. And tonight we have a very, very down to earth individual, first of all, but yet we come all the way to the countryside of the music industry. And I have a great pleasure of having your very own in honor of Women's History Month. We want to recognize Miss Lee Newton. So, welcome tonight. How are you?
I'm doing great, Turquoise. I am so happy to be on your show. This is so awesome. I just love you guys to death. And thank you for including me on the Women's Month. This is amazing. This is
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So I definitely want to get started because when we talk about Women's History Month, sometimes we go all around the world, which is great. But sometimes I love for people to get to know who we center ourselves around. And I think highly of you, look up to you, even in the music industry, and just love that, your down to earth spirits means a lot. And I appreciate everything that you have done, yet spoken of, and you have yet, I say, a bright future. But I want people to kind of know a little bit more about you. So as we begin tonight, if you would just share a little bit about Miss Lee Newton.
Well, thank you so much for the compliments. I mean, that just means so much coming from you. Yeah, I was born and raised in Canton, North Carolina, which is a very small town, and used to be known for the smell from the paper mill when you drove
Mm,
by. But last year they actually closed down the paper mill, and I did the first concert ever in my hometown. The first time was there at the Labor Day parade, and they actually was taking the smokestacks down from there, and it brought tears to my eyes because
mm,
my dad was a cab driver for many years until he passed away when I was 11. But I used to go and ride around with my dad, and it would be right there at the cab stand. So him and I would sit on the steps, and he taught me how to play the guitar. So
mm,
that's where the love of music come from. It started off with a lot of traditional country because that's what he listened to, and then I've been exposed to so many different types of music. I fell in love with just what music did and how it
mm.
made me feel. And now moving forward, all these years, I'm so excited that I get to write my own music. And I'm a full-time mommy, a full-time wife, and I love to sing and spread the love of music and just my testimony to everybody I
Mm.
meet.
So I'm hearing you talk about the paper mill, and obviously I'm not from Georgetown, South Carolina. From where I'm from, it's about 35, 40 minutes, and I can attest to the smell of the paper mill. But it meant a lot to a lot of individuals because that actual site provided a lot of jobs. When we talk
Yeah.
about the industry and what it did, so just to hear you mention about it closing, actually, it kind of did the same thing recently here for a lot of citizens. But we're going to trust that God provide ways for them to get definitely back on their feet. But I'm hearing your story as you talk about your dad. And I was going to ask you, like, what was your inspiration? But obviously, you kind of answered that and talking about your dad. But if you would, when we talk about him and just being able to ride around, when we talk about the sound of music and you mentioning that you wrote it, like what was that turning point when you really realized this is the journey I want to go on?
Well, I mean, from a very young age, my dad named me after Brenda Lee, which is Little Miss Dynamite, the one that sings Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. So he had always put that in me, about
Mm,
wanting to be a singer. Well, when he first did, of course, I sang, and I was only 7 or 8, but I knew I loved to sing. I loved to entertain. I knew I was different from a lot of people that was my age. I didn't sit and play with Barbie dolls. I wasn't in sports. I wasn't in anything, but I loved music.
right.
once he passed away, I kind of turned away from music for a couple years until I got in high school, and I was a loner. I got picked on a lot in school. I didn't have any friends. Like I said, I wasn't in any kind of cliques. I was just to myself, and I would eat lunch by myself many days. And I joined chorus.
Mm.
And chorus, and my teacher that I had, she kind of took me under her wing, and she let me have a solo part in the country show. And I was
Okay.
14 years old, and I got on stage and I performed. I've still got this video, Turquoise. It's so cute, the big hair. But I was a different part. I mean, I was the same, but it's like I felt like I fit in finally.
Mm.
And I was on stage and people were clapping for me, and I started singing a Lori Morgan song, and I knew from that moment that that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know how I was going to be it, but I wanted to be one of those beautiful country singers, on stage. And but that's where the love of music and it brought me so much closer to my dad, even though he was gone. It's like I had my dad there with me.
Mm.
So throughout life, you know, I started, I got in the bands, when I was, in my 20s and even in the 30s, and they were cover bands, and I sang everything. I loved, I mean, I sang everything from Prince to Stevie Ray Vaughan, Led Zeppelin to Gladys Knight, to Gretchen Wilson. I mean, I did it all.
Everything.
I mean, everything. And but I just loved it, and I loved being on stage, and I loved meeting people. And so fast forward even a few years, because I took some years off with my older kids, and then just being married in certain circumstances, and I got back into it as far as being able to write.
Mm.
And I started writing my music, and that was a huge turning point for me. And that, but I had to live all those years of
Mhm.
heartache and happiness, and the heartaches and hard times, and being told no, and being told that I was not a good singer, and that I would never amount to anything, and that I was just a dreamer. And
Right.
I had to go through all that to be able to get to a point to where I did start writing my music, and it came from my heart.
Mm.
And what I wrote, came from my experiences, and it was stuff that other people were going through, and they started resonating and just loving my songs.
Mm.
And I started learning that I was touching a lot of people through my music, and I know that it was because of God. That was my mission that I was supposed to do. So that's, I mean, I think I've always known that I wanted to be a singer, entertainer, but in the last several years is when I really feel like that journey that brought me to that point has made me be who I am, who Lee Newton is, who I want to be. And I've still got so much more left,
Oh yes.
so much more.
Yes, you do. Again, you all, if you are just joining us, we are here taking a seat at the table with your very own Miss Lee Newton. That's right, your very own Miss Lee Newton, who is out there just rising and rising up on the charts. I had to say it for her because she is definitely rising on the charts. But you
Uh,
all reshare this alive and tag her to it. Tag Lee Newton. Reshare the live and tag Lee Newton.
yeah,
And keep the name in your radar because it's some more stuff coming. But we're
yeah,
gonna hold a pin until it does. But I'm hearing you and I'm listening to the 14-year old. And I want to pinpoint this because as I hear your story, as we recognize you for Women's History Month, I also want this to resonate with our young ladies that are currently in school and or maybe journeying and yet facing some type of adversity.
yeah,
Um, 14-year-old realizing no friends, pretty much nobody likes me, nobody wanted to hang out with me, and you feel alone.
yes,
um and sometimes it just takes that one recognition of a person that see something in you that we don't often see in ourselves. And so kudos to the teacher that saw fit to say, I see you,
yes,
and I want you to be able to see yourself. And yet you didn't shy away from it. I mean, obviously you're looking centered around your peers and probably questioning like why, right? Because we all do that.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that it didn't necessarily stop you. It probably made you question as a teenager, because I mean that's typical. But
Yeah.
I just love how you kind of shared just that short story, and for me, it just resonates with inspiration for our young people that find themselves in kind of in a dark place. They back against the wall because of challenges with peers and trying to be a part of a circle. And here you are looking at someone that although she felt like she should have been a part of something, she realized that she was also bigger than something. Because the minute she got on stage, didn't see it in herself, but all the applause, all the claps, all the keep going. And before you know it, she's doing covers and covers, and she got charts out there. I mean, she is global all around the world. And so I say that to say to all of us as women, we're going to be faced with challenges. As she mentioned, we're going to be faced with, may not be good enough. It's a no, you're a woman. Why should you? We don't want you. But don't stop.
Nope. Nope.
Don't.
I always take the no's as not now.
Mm,
That's the way I take it. And I'll let all the negativity that people have or that they have had towards me and, growing up, I've never let that stop me. I let it fuel my fire.
mm,
And, and it gives me a drive, not to get revenge, but to just be a better person and be like, look at what you're creating right now.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, look at what you're creating by you being so negative to me. Yeah, you call me a dreamer, I'll write a song about it.
Right. There you go. Right. There
you
you
know,
go.
going back, even from the 14-year-old to even get to where that girl was, I grew up, like I said, my dad was a cab driver. My mom, I love her to death. She's passed away a few years back, but she was a recovering alcoholic. And so I got her on the end of being very depressive and
Mm,
in a depressed state, and she would have highs and lows, and she would lock herself up in the room and for days, and my dad would be gone working 12, 13, 14 hours a day trying just to put food on the table and keep a roof over our head.
yeah.
And I fended for myself a lot, and there was times we didn't have anything to eat. And I remember going to school, and my one teacher, Miss Hall, she would let me stay after school, and she would have me a candy bar and a Coke if I'd done all
Mm,
my work that day. I was in fourth grade, and I remember walking home from school, Miss Jean Hall, and she would give me a candy bar and a Coke, and I would walk all the way home eating that candy bar and Coke because it was, basically all I'd have, until the next day. But I got made fun of a lot growing up just because I didn't have, like the right, the clothes, I didn't have no mom there waiting to help me with homework. It just wasn't going to be, But my mom taught me lessons, that money can't buy. My daddy taught me so many lessons, and it made me who I am today. And I respect both of them because I know that they did what was best with what they had. And I even wrote a song called "Mama Said," and
yeah. I love it.
it's basically telling you that when you grow up, you start realizing what your mom sometimes things that she says really you're going to end up saying the same things to your kids.
Yeah. It's like, hold up.
But yeah, I
uh,
mean, but being that little, I tell, I talk to the kids a lot, and I guess that's why I've got, such a soft spot for helping kids, and like with Wayne, with what he does, Wayne Bucket,
mhm.
the tools for school. I love being part of anything that's going to help give back, and especially to the kids. I help with the Toys for Tots with the Marine Corps. I'm just getting ready to be a part and an ambassador, and this is something new of Music Amplifies, which is a huge organization in Nashville that gives back to all the kids, and it just means so much to me, and that's where it comes from, though.
Yes.
Is I don't want any kid, you know, if I can help them have a better Christmas, or if I can help them with having stuff for school, I'm there.
There you go.
I lived it.
Yeah.
And I know that some kids, they don't mean it, and they might even forget about it when they grow on up. But some things
Mhm.
things that are said to you when you're a child, they stick. It sticks with you.
Yeah.
So anything I could do to help with kids, that's my passion.
Yeah. And I love how for a second you were able to let yourself be vulnerable to tell your story, because again you sit on a major, when I say major, major platform, and us that are coming through, whether it's just day-to-day workforce or looking to get into the music industry, sometimes we don't hear about those vulnerable stories as to how a person gets where they are. We look at the glory of it, like, yay, I'm in a room with Lee Newton, but not to know that Lee Newton was that 14-year-old little girl that pretty much got bullied on, pretty
Yeah,
much said that she wasn't going to amount to anything. But now look at God,
telling you.
how he do a turn and got you on major platforms, and those same ones that look down is now looking up. But we're gonna come back to that one because
Yeah, and the people that I've gotten to work with and be a part of and be around, it's just so surreal to me when I'm there in that moment, and I'm sitting there thinking about my dad loving
mm,
people, and now that if I could, I know he's smiling down from heaven. I
oh,
know,
definitely.
know.
Definitely. You could definitely see it from the heart and the passion, and just from the moment of meeting you. I just know right then and there, I was like, Yes, I just love her energy. Like, it's just there. Like, she's just so down to earth." So, again, just to hear more and more of your story, I'm just so applaud that, again, you didn't let, any, um, I guess to say, barriers stopped you. You took those, like you said, and turned the
Yeah,
negative into positive. And okay, you say I'm dreaming, I'm gonna turn it into reality. I'm gonna show you it. And so I appreciate that. And one thing which we're gonna get into this, but I just want to touch briefly because you mentioned Mr. Wayne Buckingham.
yes,
I definitely love him to death.
love.
Um, he definitely saw it in me, as well as Miss Cooper here with AC Media and Marketing, when he reached out and say, I want you a part of the team. I didn't know this guy at all. But again, just hearing your story just reminds me of, the no, the not you, all of that. But look at someone that didn't even know you, that was willing to take a risk, yet a chance, and say, I want you to come and take a seat at the table. Like, I'm wanting him to take a seat at my table. No, he wanted me. So I'm in hearing you. I just wanted to say that because you mentioned his name, but that again just shows you, as you mentioned, that teacher. I'm reminded of him. Like,
Yeah,
he saw it in me, and
yes,
I just love even his story is. I
yes.
mean, he has a testimony all by himself. So, but we're gonna get into him because he's definitely a Jew to a heart, and I love him to death.
I
Um.
do too, him and Michelle both, and I've been a part of their events for 5 years, and I always say Wayne is like my big brother. He
Oh
took
yeah.
me in, and I have met so many amazing friends and people there doing his events, and I love giving back, but I love the relationships that I've made
Oh
with
yeah.
all of them. And like I said, once you're part of the family, and I mean, he's like a big brother. I
Oh yes.
love what he does, and I love what he stands for in his character.
Oh yes, he's definitely that. We're gonna come back to Mr. Wayne Buckingham because I know some of you probably went to like, who is this guy? But we're gonna talk a little bit more about him and kind of how her collaboration with it. But I want to go back to the part when you mentioned, growing up. Here's your taking off, older kids, got married, your little son that got just as much energy as you, like you all be out there doing it. But can you tell us, like, as a parent, as an artist, I mean, you travel, you're getting booked all over the world, but how do you truly balance staying to your traditional, like, country roots, while bringing something fresh to your music?
Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing. I love being here in North Carolina. I know a lot of people end up moving to Nashville where
Hmm.
they're staying and all that.
Right.
And it was very important to me to stay in North Carolina and be grounded and have that home, family surroundings for cash, and I did not want to disrupt that at all. And I knew that if I did that and was obedient, and God would make ways for everything else to happen. And because I'm very hands-on mom, mom, like mom and wife, and then my career, just balance that in. And everybody that's went along with me on this journey that I have been on, they have fallen in love with my family. They've fallen in love with my songs. And, you know, I stay here to keep grounded here in
Yeah,
North Carolina. And God just makes a way for everything else. Some of the things that have happened, it's been one person, then this thing will happen, and then once that thing, then this opportunity comes, and this opportunity comes from meeting this person, and then 2 years down the road you might get another opportunity from somebody you met 2 years ago.
right.
But it takes everybody, and so many seeds being planted. And and I just, my main thing is to always stay true to who I am, and the
Absolutely.
person that I am, and my character, my morals. That is like, that means so much to me. I don't want to do anything that's fake ish or whatever would come across that, because that's not me. I
Yes,
love to mess up, and
ma'am.
I love playing dress up, I guess because I never got to do it being
Mhm.
young. But I get all of my stuff from Goodwill and thrift stores, and I love it.
Oh, you do a great job of putting
I,
it
I
together.
take all of my pictures, I do my videos, I do all my graphics, I do everything. And, so I just, and I haven't, and I'll tell you, it took me all these years till I finally met the love of my life, and God sent him to me. And he is my rock. Like, when I say he is my rock, he is my rock. He is my best friend. We cheer each other on, like we want each other to succeed. And I just couldn't, I mean, I can't even imagine my life now without him. Because I mean, all these years I've wanted that kind of love and that kind of support, just like, honey, go shine, you're
Yeah.
be you. And I've never got to be with anybody that wasn't like trying to dim my light.
Mm.
you know they everybody thought they wanted to be with me, but that was the first thing. They wanted to put me in this little thing and start
Box.
and
Yeah.
suffocate. No, you can't be friendly, stop smiling. And that's just not me. That
Yeah.
I'm not going to be in that, they call it a little box. I'm just not.
Mhm.
Because this little light of mine, well, I'm going to let it shine. That's,
Okay.
but no, it's the truth though. And so, it does take having that support, just that, honey, I
Absolutely.
believe in you. Because I'm a workaholic. I mean, I'm a go-getter. I don't stop. I just keep on going. And but it feels good to be able to have my husband go, honey, I believe in you. You've got this, and like I said, he's my best friend. I mean, he truly is.
Good, good. It's again good to hear you talk about him, and just how you balance it. You all look out for Lee Newt, because hey, I may be on tour with her one day. You never
Yeah,
know. You never know. Check it out. Check it out.
yeah.
Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. But nevertheless, we want to also go again, because you made a major turnaround, like just following you, talking with you, meeting you, just hearing your story, your family. But I guess I want to kind of know, or to the viewers also, like, what has been like one of the most memorable moments in your career so far?
Oh my gosh, I've gotten three. The first one was getting to open for Randy Travis.
Okay.
Was It was amazing because he was from North Carolina, and he come on stage while I was doing sound check, and I got to sit there with him. And I mean, he's Randy Travis, and he was so kind. And just, I was able to kind of tell him that my dad absolutely loved him, and that I had a video of me singing when I was 7, and playing.
Oh.
And it's got my daddy talking to me, giving me lyrics, because I had forgot the lyrics to this Randy song. And but he's singing me the lyrics, and so that's one. Randy Travis was amazing because he told me after the show that I did great, and that meant so much. You know, he said it to me, and so that meant a lot. The other one is getting to actually perform. And now, my daddy always said, he'd sit me up on the coffee table. He's like, "You're going to be on the Grand Ole Opry one day. You're going to be on the
Mm.
stage of the Opry, and I'm going to be in the front row watching you."
Oh
And
wow.
so, in my quest of all this dreaming that I do, that has been the biggest dream, was to get to play on the Grand Ole Opry show or the stage of the Grand Ole Opry. And so it wasn't this past October, but the October before, I got to have that moment of being on the stage of the Opry for the
Mm.
award show with the JMAs, and I got to close out the show singing a song called Carolina, which was written for my mom and my dad, and for Carolina, being proud of where I'm from and how I
Right.
grew up, and just kind of not letting the world change you, and that you know always remember where you came from. And
Absolutely.
I got to stand on that stage, stand in the circle, and my husband, as
Mm.
sweet as he is, my dad was a cab driver, and my daddy would always wear the like old police hat, like replica
Mm.
thing. Well, my husband bought me a replica of my dad's hat,
Oh wow.
and even got me the badge that matched my dad's badge, and it said Carolina, and it said taxi service. And
Mm.
so it was on the hat, and they actually placed it on the mic stand next to me while I sang the song.
Oh wow.
And my husband and I had front row seats, so of course, with me not being in front row, that seat was empty for my daddy.
Right.
And so that moment, because at the very end of that song, it slows down, and the last line, and I waited to sing this line for when I actually got to be on the stage of the Opry. But it says, "Tonight I'm on this Opry stage. I can almost see my daddy's face. Proud
Mm.
girl from Carolina." And I got to do that, and I'm glad that I actually got to do it at the JMA Awards, because I got to really just really soak in that moment. And I know that one day, because it's still a dream of mine, to get invited by the Grand Ole Opry to be able to sing on the actual Grand Ole Opry show. And one day it will happen. I tell
Absolutely.
everybody that one of my friends from the Opry members, if I bug them and they hear this enough, they're going to invite me one day. But I don't stop.
You got to keep pressing. You got to keep putting yourself there. You
Yeah,
listen. If it's where you want to go, regardless of how some people take it, feel, or think about it, you got to know. Be in other words, as you mentioned, be true to yourself and who you
yeah,
are, and to continue to be genuine because you know what you want, right?
that's
And so you're
exactly.
going to be faced with a lot of adversity, a lot of challenges, but again, you know what you want, so you got to,
Yeah,
stay consistent with it. So I commend you for it because again, nobody truly knows your story yet the feeling, but you can only praise your own glory. And so I
yeah,
just love how you allowing everything that you've been faced with to continue to push you to want more for yourself. And so I want to ask this too, because again, we have a lot of individuals that, whether you're in the workforce or actually getting into the music industry in which you are in, sometimes we look at uh, challenges, or we're being faced with challenges. Some are pretty major, especially music industry, big deals on the table. As you mentioned earlier, I'm not good enough, I'm a woman, uh, no, we don't want you at the table, like all of that stuff, right? And
yeah.
so if you um, can you tell us if there has been or is any challenges that you've faced, and kind of how did you continue to overcome them? And before you answer that, I kind of want to put it in perspective because, again, we have a lot of young artists that sometimes don't know exactly the business side to the industry. Like, I see the Lee Newton, she out there on stage doing her thing. That's great, glory. but I don't know the behind the scenes, the business to it. So if you would just kind of tell us what's that has been for you, but yet how you've overcome it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you've got the one side where, like you said, you're out there singing, you're playing shows, you're doing your social media, and everybody sees that part. And behind the scenes, you know, there are a lot of independent artists right now. I'm an independent artist. There's a lot of artists that have already been on big labels that are now independent artists, because the industry itself, with the big labels and all that. I mean, you have to make sure, even the small labels, you have to make sure that if they do approach you with a deal, that it's a darn good deal, because a lot of people don't realize that, yeah, even if they say, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million contract, but and you're starting to make all these videos, and you're starting to, and you're spending a lot on these videos because they're giving you the money to do all this. You know, you're going to be paying that back. It's not free money. you know, they're going to kind of own you, and you're going to have to do everything that they say. All these albums, they're going to have to do all these shows, and a lot of that money up top is going to go straight back to them. So you want to make sure if you do get a record deal, you do it. As for me, um, telling a young person coming into the business, just keep your circles small.
Mm,
Keep your contacts that you hang out with and you associate with very respectful, because there are a lot of people. The more you climb and the more that you go around, the more people that are wanting to attach themselves to you.
absolutely.
And and there are some people that are not good.
Mm.
They're not good people, and so you won't. And it's hard because they might act like they are the best thing since sliced bread. But you have to, that's when you need people to bounce stuff off from and be like, and have your interest at heart.
Right, right.
Because you can do this business. It just, it takes, especially if you're an independent artist, because you have to, you know, pay a lot of
Briefly do.
able to go
Right.
with recordings. You have to do your recordings. You have to have it packaged and presented. And then you have to buy the CDs. You have to buy the pictures. You have to have your merchandise. You have to do a website. You have to do your graphics. It just don't start with just being on stage singing or
Being
even recording. Even if you recorded an album, it's not just going to all of a sudden, oh, it's out there, yay. You
right.
have to work your butt off, and you have to, I mean, especially being an independent artist, because you don't have that big label sending radio blast out, and it's hard to get people to play your music. So you're having to go basically kind of like Loretta Lynn did with each radio station, except for the
Right.
phony. But, but you have to like call up, you have to form these relationships with these different radio stations that will play an independent artist.
Right.
And some will not play.
Mhm.
They are sent, where they have to go by certain rules, and it's through the up, and the record label sends this stuff out, and to get on certain other charts you have to pay,
Mm.
a publicist
Big money. Yeah.
this, and it's, it can turn, you just got to make sure that do as much as you can by yourself, or people that can help you to get it
Hmm.
promoted. Spend, a lot of money on getting a good recording, because that's who you are and your image of what you want to present to people, because that's
Right.
what you do. You need to present yourself, not what somebody else is trying to present for you. And, basically, there are a few little things that you can, put your money into to promote. But, a lot of that stuff is a money racket.
Right. So I'm glad you answered, because that was one of the questions in the comments, where whether you were an independent artist. And oh my God, I so love the way you just broke it down, because I've seen it, just watching people, having conversations with people, and it's so much out there. And you can get that one hit and take off, and all these major record deals thrown at you. And be quite frank, I mean, you buying into them basically, like you're their product.
You
and pretty
are.
much whether
Harris.
they tell you to go right, left, front, and back, if you don't want to, unfortunately, you're the product, and pretty much you got to, right? Because you're already in it.
Well, yeah.
So, in return, as an independent artist, although it may cost you a little more to put yourself there, something you said earlier, and I have to use this in regards to that, is being true to yourself yet grounded.
Yeah.
And when you know the genuine person that you are, you realize your worth, whether you're on a major label and or just as a independent artist. And I love just the way you broke that down in regards to allowing people to know the behind the scenes or yet the business side of it, because oftentimes we don't we see Lee Newton,
Oh,
she's doing great, she's traveling the world, she's here and there and everywhere, but don't know like it's work. And like you said, you
yeah.
got to be willing to put in the work. And again, I say whether that's in the music industry or just something else in general, wanting to be a business owner, starting up your own business, like you see the glory of everybody else, but that person's story, everybody one is different. And so again, if I had to take anything from what you just said, is you got to be able to be grounded, and you got to put in the work.
You
You just
do.
got to
It's
put in
not
the
going to
work.
come to you. It's not going to be handed to you, not less somehow you get a viral stuff like on TikTok, and that has TikTok, it even helped me. I mean, at the very beginning, getting my stuff out, to people. So, there's so many tools that are free
Hmm.
nowadays. And I think so many people are utilizing it.
Right.
But it is harder now to do it because there are so many, and social media, it's,
Yeah.
where you look, there are so many independent artists and singers, and everybody's trying just to get their music heard, and basically, like I said, only how you're really going to get to like a big level is where you have a big label where they're paying to put those blasts and like almost put it on like anybody, and like it
Right.
show up in your news feed. They're going to get you to where you're seeing that person over and over and over and over.
Absolutely. And
Um,
and I like something else that you mentioned when you talk about definitely keeping your circle small. I mean, we all, including myself, we can mingle with a lot of people, right?
yeah,
But you got to know the sincerity of your circle.
yes,
And that's very important when you want to grow, when you want to elevate. And I realize even for me, like sometimes everybody don't get it. Sometimes you mentioned earlier that people may say, well, why you're doing this and you're kind of over there and you're not with this. And it's like it's a sense of discernment. You gotta know what's around you. You gotta know what's genuine, and you can sense that. Like I sensed the Lee Newton when we first met. Like she was just it. Um, and I'm
yeah.
not
You
saying that that
first met me,
situation is
I had wet hair, no makeup
God.
on. I was as grounded as I could possibly be.
And that's what I love. Like, so I just love that even from then to now that, we're able to still have conversations, and just going back to your point of just that circle and seeing the music out there, or individuals. Like I see it so often, and we all, when a person's like yourself, your music is there, and we know where you want to go, it won't hurt to share it. It won't hurt to say, check this artist out, because at
Yeah,
the end of the day, you are a Carolina native, and regardless of whether I knew you or not, it still represents me because I'm from the Carolina, maybe not North Carolina, but South Carolina. So we still get an indirect recognition because that person sowed a seed to us. And now just to be able to have you sit at this table, tell your story, believe it or not, someone is going to walk away being very inspired by a Lee Newton. Again, not knowing you, but just your testimony of where you were as a 14-year-old to where you are now. And that just goes back to what you're saying about staying grounded, keeping your circle tight, kind of knowing the spirit of discernment of the people that you may mingle and match with, but just know who you're going to allow in, right?
And I'll
But
tell you, the other thing that I have learned, and I've had people do it for me, and you was mentioning it with Wayne with you, you know, I've had other artists, that I never would have dreamed that I would have gotten to work with. That
Mm,
I thought they would look at me and say, "Yeah, I'm not going to sing with you. You're just, your little Canton cab driver's daughter." They took a chance and they was like, "Yes, Lee, I'll sing with you." And
mm,
some very legendary singers. One, Joe Bonzel with the Oak Ridge Boys, T. Graham Brown, Deborah Allen. They took a chance on me, and um, they I've learned from that to always, you can't do it all the time, but when it's allowable and you can do it, and you know that the person's good, and you try to help other people, you pay it forward, you give it back. And I have another artist friend, that has done the same for me, and he told me that, another legendary artist had paid it to him, and he said,
mm.
always pay it forward any way you possibly can, whether that's just a word of encouragement, whether you can answer a question for them, where you're just a cheerleader for them, or if you can help
Right.
something, it's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to dim your light by trying to help somebody else. There is room for everybody.
Everybody. Yes,
But
ma'am.
are some very shady people, and you do have to watch that. For the most part, you know, I have run into some amazing, amazing people, and I wouldn't trade any of that for nothing, because it's been such a great journey.
Good, good. So I was going to ask a little bit more into that in regards to you being a female artist in the country industry, and just kind of, how has that been? How's that growth been for you? And I kind of love when you mentioned a few names and the connections of whether that was just encouragement, whether that was just,
Uh,
a pat on the back, or keep going, or remember to pay it forward because someone that teacher paid it forward for you.
yes, yes.
And so you're reminded.
I'll never forget Mrs. Medford or Coach Lyle. Coach Lyle is the one that came to me because I didn't really do good in school. I didn't have good grades at all, and I was almost failing because I hated going to school. I was, I didn't make good grades, and he came to my class. He wasn't even my teacher, and he came outside of one of the classes I was in high school, and he said, and of course he calls me Brenda because that's what I went by until I was like 21. But he's like, Brenda, he said, I know that you've got in you to do good, and
Mm,
he says, I'm going to challenge you. Next year, he said, I want to challenge you to make straight A's. Well, you know what I did that whole year of 11th grade? I made straight A's. And I was in his class for history. And he would tell me, everybody else raise their hands, but Brenda, don't raise your hand. Because I would raise my hand answering questions. All I needed was that little
that
bit
push.
of encouragement as somebody to believe in me, and it made me want to strive. I strive to do so good, and I did. And I proved to myself, man, I'm not as dumb as I thought I was. All it takes is just some words of encouragement that can
Yes,
change somebody's route of where they go, and especially being so young in school. That's all we all crave, that in school.
right.
That just that little bit, and then with having Miss Medford, believing in me, and giving me that shot to have that little moment where I got to sing by myself. Those two people changed my whole direction.
Good. Again, you all, we are here broadcasting results with Rouse, and we have taking a seat at the table, I should say. I was about to say sitting at the table because I'm used to sometimes doing it live in person, but taking a seat at the table tonight, you all, we have Miss Lee Newton, by way of a Carolina girl, but North
Carolina.
Carolina, by the way. But definitely give us great honor. We've heard a lot of great things from her so far. And so we're going to keep gearing this up a little bit because I also want you all to hear from her. You probably saw me post recent early on of a partnership with WAB Sports. And so we're going to get to that because I want her to actually tell her story in regards to how she got to where she is currently is in regards to that as well. But I also want to go to, because I want you to talk a little bit more about you so people can understand truly your story. And so when Lee Newton goes out there on stage, we heard about, your husband sitting there. Y'all had two seats, but obviously you're on stage, so it's just him. But and reminded of him beside him, that's a reminder of your dad, right? And so outside of that, what is something else that you truly truly love about performing live?
Oh my gosh. The, I mean, I can name a million things. I always get a little the nerves, the inside, that build up, the anticipation. And once I get on stage, it's just like, it's almost like a drug. I just feel like I'm just floating on air, and singing just, and seeing everybody singing my songs back to me, or singing the cover songs that I do on stage, everybody clapping, and gosh, it's such a high being on stage. It's just so hard to explain it, except for it's just an adrenaline rush. It's something that you just want to just keep on and on and on doing. I mean, I would sing all night long if I could.
Oh, I know you will. So just thinking of that, we heard from you from 14, um, older kids, obviously. Then your young Cash, who has just as much energy as you do, but busy life. Awesome supportive husband, spouse. But when we think of all of that, we also go to the side of your fans. Can you tell us, as fans, as viewers, for those that are just getting to hear from you the first time, that are viewing this live, what can we all expect from you in the near future, from what you can share?
Okay, there's a lot that I hear. Oh my gosh, it's got to drive me crazy. I've got but first, I don't call people fans. I've never been able to do that. I always feel like that puts somebody beneath me. So I tell everybody they're my friends, my followers. They love me and love my journey, and I love connecting with people. And so it's very hard for me to say fan, but there are so many things that's getting ready to happen. I just I released my fourth album last year, my fourth studio album, my Undamaged EP. I won EP Album of the Year there. I won Album of the Year for my Unleashed album. Um, and I released my gospel album, which got several nominations, and it made it to the first ballot of the Grammys, which that was huge because I had worked with. It turned out to be Lee Newton and Friends, and I had Who's Who on there. Little Cash Man was on there. My husband was on there.
Oh,
My dad's recording is on there. So I had my dad, my husband, and my son all on there. Plus, I got to work with the Who's Who of country music on my gospel album. Uh,
good.
I just released last year my Homesick album, which was with Dolly Parton's producer. And it is, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. I just got through doing a huge interview on that one. So I'm still releasing songs from that, but I'm also working on a new album. So I should be able to be releasing my first release probably within the next month and a half. So I'm gearing up to get all the promotion ready for it, and then just start working in the studio. And I'm hoping and praying that I'll be able to be finished with it by the end of summer. Um, and so every year I've released an album. This will
Hmm.
be my fifth one. So, but I have several nominations in different award shows that's coming up, and I just cannot wait. I can't wait for the JMA Awards this year. It's still at the Opry House.
Okay.
At the ISSA Awards, and then I get to MC and actually perform for the Tennessee Songwriting Association Awards, and they're
Good.
yeah, I did it last year as well. And so this year they're actually giving Bill Anderson the Lifetime Achievement Award. So I'm so excited because I met Bill Anderson the very first time I was at the Opry backstage. And I think it was probably the only time I ever fangirled. So yeah, a lot of great things. There's several things that I cannot
And
now, but believe me,
it's coming.
it's huge, huge, huge.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait. Can't wait. I'm almost like kid in the candy store. Like I want to hold it, but I want to tell it. I want to hold it, but I'm gonna hold it. We're gonna hold it, y'all. It's major for her. But just all I can tell you is, if you're not currently following Lee Newton on any platform, go and follow her. Um, it's some huge things coming out again. She can't say, I can't say. I'm excited just as much as her. I'm a kid in the candy store. I want to put it out there, but we gonna hold it until the time comes right. But I am so 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 happy for her. Just again, you heard a little bit about her story, but just to know her story and to see where she is now, I know her parents is just flooding, and so I just want to again just commend you for, like, you're pressing the way, and I just love it. I just truly love it. And so when we hear the major impact that you have done just for yourself personally, um and when we look at your profession in the music industry, how do you hope your music, because you've written some very I would say very touching songs. I've had a pleasure of listening to them, and it's very personal. But I love the genuine of it because it comes from the heart. But how do you hope that your music impact listeners that will come across you over time?
You know, when I write my songs, you know, you let. I mean, there's two different types. My husband always said there's gift songs. That's the ones that come easy and they come
Mhm.
from God, and they just you're just literally
Well,
just writing them down. And then you have craft songs where you have to piece them together, and you kind of like your hat. I had wrote the chorus to it, you know, a year prior, and then I added the verses. You know, it's just how it works. But you know, I always pour out my heart, and sometimes that leaves you to be very vulnerable because you are coming from a place where you're just putting it all out there. Perfect example, you were talking about a song that, you know, or you was listening to my music, and one of them was one of the very first ones that I started writing, and it was a gift song, and it's been 4 years now since I've done that song and wrote it, and it's still touching lives to this day, and it's called Strength of a Woman.
mm,
And I wrote that song, you know, a little over 4 years, well, about 4.5 years ago, because I had to literally run from a domestic violence marriage with my little boy, and run with nothing. I had nothing. And God took care of me and little Cash, and surrounded us with angels. And I started from the ground up, and that's when God started working in my life. And he, you know, I ended up staying with this lady for a couple weeks. I still call her my nana, and she's my saving grace because she took me and little Cash Man in. And everybody came to my rescue, and everybody came to help me. And I ended up living in a little 400 square foot home that didn't even have a kitchen drawer in it, that only had one little bedroom, and I made that Cash's bedroom because he was starting kindergarten. I didn't want him to not have his own room, so I slept on the couch. And during this time of rebuilding my life in this little house is where I found who I really was. And I found my relationship. I've always loved God, and I love Jesus. I grew up in church, but I totally gave myself to him. And I'm like, God, wherever you want me to go, lead me, and I'll
mm.
follow. And from that moment, I never had to want, need anything. He provided for Cash and I. And that's when the song started pouring out, and I was on my way literally to the lawyer's office, and I started writing Strength of a Woman. And by
Mm.
the time that I got home, I wrote, and it was really healing for me, just for me writing that song. And God gave me the words to where, I wrote it from a different place in my life, but once I recorded it and put it out there, I remember when it came back after it was recorded, I stood there listening and I just cried. And it was just like happy tears. It was like everything was just released. I was like, thank you, God. Thank you for this life
Absolutely.
that you're giving me now, because I was so happy and so fulfilled and so satisfied, and seeing little Cassius smile and laugh, and he was making, and God provided a way for me to record my music. And I'd always been told I wasn't good enough and that I was a dreamer and I would never make it, because you can't be a mom and a wife and go sing. It's just
Right.
powerful. You can't do that.
Mm.
And you can.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
God made a way. And so then once I put it out, I started getting all these stories from not only women, but women and men. And
Mm.
actually, that song has brought me so many friends that have went through different adversities in their life. I could name one of them. The main one is Kim Gillian, and she is a double quad. She lost her arms and her legs with sepsis.
Mm.
Her story is so inspirational. She used my song as her anniversary song, and of her going through what she went through. And her video was using Strength of a Woman, shows her going through what she went through. Then it shows her learning how to walk with her prosthetics. It showed her learning how to cook. It showed her learning how to, just do different things. Then it shows her jumping out of an airplane, scuba diving, being a runway model, writing a book, being an advocate, and telling her story. And I'm like, wow, this is,
Wow.
her and I finally got to meet when I opened for Sarah Evans in Georgia. And we just ran, I just hugged her, and I was just so happy I got to meet her. And we're just such great friends now and family. And, but that song brought me my husband, because he heard that song. And
Mm.
that was the first song he heard of me. And it, that brought us together. Wayne Buckingham, favorite song. So, um, that, music can heal, and it
Absolutely.
doesn't matter what
Yeah.
genres, as long as it's a great song and it comes from the heart. There's so many songs that can make a big, huge difference in people's lives. And Strength of a Woman is, like I said, now it's up to like 55,000 videos made on TikTok
Mm.
with people telling their stories. 55,000. And I don't have a label. I don't have nobody pushing nothing, so it's a,
That
it's
shows you
God.
can do it. And you all, that song, if you follow my page, I put a post up recognizing Miss Newton for Women's History Month. And that's the song that is playing behind that picture. I love it. And I actually have a comment over here. Someone is asking, can you sing a little bit of it? But I do love that song.
I see. And I've been talking a lot, but see, I'm a warrior getting through this crazy life. Might get knocked down, but I got God on my side. Don't stop believing, 'cause the sun will shine again. And on your darkest day, remember you got a friend. When you're feeling low, don't know which way to go. Life ain't always supposed to be this hard. Gonna get put down to forget who you are. And after the rain, the sun will shine again. And that's when your life will begin. You got the strength of a woman.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it, Mia. I love love it. Like that's I love a couple of other ones, but that's probably one of the ones that's definitely my go-to, I must say. That's
Yeah, and
definitely
that's what I was telling you. Like, the words that God gave me, it didn't pinpoint a certain thing. I've had people use it, going through cancer, and they've sent me pictures of hair in the sink that they've had to cut their hair, and they're
Mm.
using my song. And I've had, people that's went through abuse, and people that's went through just losing weight. Grandma used my song. I don't know if you know who Grandma is. She's amazing, and she's lost so much weight. And there's just so many different adversities that we all go through
Yes. Yes.
every day. Men, women, we all go through stuff in our life, and we need, um every now and then. I mean, it's okay to feel certain things. We're going to go through things. We're human. We're supposed to feel and go through. But like I've said before, what we turn that into is where it all lies, because we go through these things to be able to tell our testimony. And you never know who you can touch. If I touch one person with a song, then I've done what I'm
That's
supposed to.
good.
And I'll
Absolutely.
another thing. There was a guy that reached out to me. It was right after I had released Strength of a Woman, and he reached out and he said, "Lee," he said, "I know I'm a man," he said, "but your song saved my life." And he said, "It literally
Mm.
my life." He said, "I was getting ready to jump off of a bridge." He said, "I hit the lowest
Mm.
part of my life." And he said, "I listened to your song." He said, "I kept just hearing those words. You got a friend. God's on your side. Brighter days are coming. The sun's going to shine again." He said, and I didn't jump. And he said, "I want to thank you for it." And I had raffled off a couple guitars, and he won the guitar.
Oh, good.
And my husband and I drove to Kentucky, and we hand delivered that guitar to him. And he told me, he's like, "I'm the first song I'm going to learn is Strength of a Woman."
Oh,
That,
wow. Well,
that
that was
like
definitely
that.
nice.
It just means the world to me.
Absolutely. Well, you all, we're going to shift gears a little bit because uh, I want to talk a little bit about the Orange and White weekend. But before we go there, we do have another question in regards to your music. And um, this viewer asks, how do you pick and choose which songs goes on a particular album?
It's all in feel. I know it sounds crazy because when you're first starting to do your album, because my album, I just don't want to just stick a bunch of songs on there. It has to have like a meaning. Like Homesick, it literally had Mama Said, and it had Homesick, and had other songs. And I always try to incorporate, like Unleashed and Homesick both had my dad, like a little clip. One, on Unleashed, it had me and my dad on there, like the
Mm,
old clip of me and him singing. And then it had like Little Cash and the Be the Man. I don't know if you've heard that one, but that's another song I wrote about Cash. And so when I start going through the songs that I wrote, and I start just going over in my head, okay, which ones, and I just let God lead me. And I start just putting together, and I'm like, yeah, this one. Okay, yeah, I'm feeling this one.
mm.
I won't, okay, I need me a spunky one, but I need the right one. But over time it just starts molding together, and it comes together, and it literally like creating a baby. It's like, oh my gosh, like it's everything. Then you're like, okay, it's ready. But it is a process. It's not like, I mean, and it's a process, of getting everything, the funds, the this. And I have a lot of people that sponsor just to get, they do it. I do that to get their name on the inside of the album.
Good.
And they get an autographed copy of the CD, but that way they're helping me with the album, but then they're getting to be a part of the album, and that was
Absolutely.
important for me to be able to do something like that.
Good. So you all, here's how in South Carolina, Miss Lee Newton is going to be in Clemson, South Carolina, come August 1st through the 3rd. That's right. Mark your calendars for August 1st through the 3rd. That's the Orange and White weekend, you all, in Clemson, South Carolina, as they pay tribute to all of the Clemson fans, family, friends, everyone from all over will be in Clemson, South Carolina. So if you haven't visited Clemson yet, want to be in Clemson, want to see Ms. Lee Newton, this is your chance. So again, August 1st through the 3rd. Here's a little bit about that weekend. As she mentioned, you heard me mention Mr. Wayne Buckingham, a great mentor, yet friend, big brother. I call him it all. He called himself Tennessee Buck. He has a lot of different this guy, he's not just tall by statue, he is a giant by heart. And I love him to death. I appreciate him for just seeing me. Again, I'm kind of reminded of Ms. Newton here, for a teacher that saw her, he saw me, reached out, and again, come and take a seat at the table, not knowing what I was walking into, but I allowed the trust of God and my good faith to see that it was a path that I just felt like it was where I wanted to go, yet needed to go. And when I tell you, it has been great since connecting with him, as you mentioned. And I just love it. But you all, August 1st through the 3rd, is the Orange and White weekend. Now, Mr. Wayne Buckingham has a story all by himself. But during that weekend, again, family friends come together, and they have that Sunday is closing out with a golf tournament. But what he does with the proceeds is he gives it back. Like, again, when I tell you, tall by nature but a giant by heart, and I just love what he does. I love what he's doing. And so when he brought me on and wanted the connection with TR development and AC media marketing, just to continue to help grow events and being able to do charities and put them on for people, it just brings tears of joy to my heart just to be able to be at the table with someone that shares the same passion. And so how does Miss Lee Newton ties into all of this? She has, and I'm gonna let her tell more into it, but she's had an opportunity to be a part of the Orange and White weekend for some time now. And again, if you have not heard of her, seen her in person, this is your chance in Clemson, South Carolina, to meet her in person, very down to earth. So if you, this is your chance, just mark your calendars. But Ms. Newton, if you would just tell us, over the years that you've been a part of the Orange and White weekend, what draws you to continue to come back every year?
Oh, well, Wayne, and his team. Like I said, this will be my fifth year being a part of the Orange and White Weekend, and every year it has grown bigger and better. Wayne and Michelle, they just do so much to
Absolutely.
memorable for everybody, and it's for such a great cause. There's different parts to this whole weekend, and I think that's what makes it just so great, because it starts out on a Friday night, and you go to I think, well, the last several years they've had it at the Comfort Inn right there, in Clemson,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
a huge tailgate. There's tons of food, and all the alumni players are there, and you can come, just kind of hang out and chill out and talk and get to meet everybody. And every year that I've came back, I see the people that I met the year before and see the people I met the year before, and you really build those bonds because you keep up with each other on Facebook. So, but that's the Friday night, and that's just everybody kind of getting together. The Saturday they usually get up, and the next morning they do like a tour of the Clemson University and meet Dabo Sweeney. I got the privilege of getting to do that last year, thanks to
Right.
Wayne, and which was incredible. And I actually got to ring the bell thanks to Ricky Sapp. And him and we both got that same kind of energy. So we was doing TikToks and dancing and
Mhm.
all that good stuff. But they have it to where they do a tools for school, and they hand out book bags and supplies to all the kids. And it's just super amazing to watch. Like I said, I mean, Wayne does so much all year long with different places that he does it, but this is the main one that he has done
Right.
for, I think, 6 years now. But then that evening they have been having the gala. I don't know if it's whichever one, I guess, but they've had several ones, which I've gotten to perform at them, and I'm super excited about this year because they're going to be having the Western Gala, which
Yes.
cowgirl hat and boots, and they're going to have a big bull there. And it's actually, the last few years it's been at Lakeside Lodge, which has been outside, and it's been
Right.
very hot. So this year they're actually going to have it indoors at the I think it's Best Western.
Western. Yeah.
in the ballroom, and so it's going to be a lot more cooler, but it's going to be really awesome. I'm so excited. And then the Sunday they do the golf celebrity golf tournament. So what they do on that is they will pick. They'll have three people that will come to play golf. They pay for a package, and they get to go play with a celebrity, one of the alumni, and
Right.
the national anthem, and then it's just a day at the golf course and just getting to mingle and have fun. And I have just, like I said, to be able to help, and not only help but help somebody that I know that does so good and has a genuine heart, and Wayne Buckingham does, and so much character, and I love him and Michelle. They are, like I said, they're my family, and these last 5 years have been awesome. And I thank Kim for just taking a chance on me, because that's when I had just literally come out from what I had come out from, and I had just my first little EP, and I've sang my whole life, but he made me feel like a superstar from the very beginning.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank
So
you for sharing that. I know that was, if he's watching, would definitely warm his heart. And again, you all, Mr. Wayne Buckingham, I can't speak so much of him, but he's truly has been a blessing and is a blessing for
yeah,
me, as Miss Lee said as well. Go ahead, you want to?
I
Go ahead.
think, and this year, Homer Jordan, it's him and Homer
Yes,
that's doing it. And Homer, I love Homer. I've met him for several years now, and ever since I've done it, and I've just had a blast. But him and Homer, you're just going to meet so many people. Dale Davis, it's just all the coaches. I mean, everybody is just so down to earth and so great.
absolutely.
They do on this Saturday early. They will usually do an autograph signing. I know last year it was at Walk-Ons, and so yeah, even if you're not a Clemson fan, they've turned me into a Clemson. I'm all Alabama roll tide. I love my Alabama, but they knew that I loved Alabama. But I would put on a Clemson shirt and support this cause that they do, because they have
Absolutely.
so much, and that's what it is about. It don't matter what team you're for. It's all about coming
About the
together
colors.
and
Yes.
doing something good.
Yes. So you all, you know where we're going to be August 1st through the 3rd. I got to ask, where are you going to be? Again, that Friday is a tailgate. It is free. Come bring your lawn chairs. When she literally said it's nothing but food stretched from east to west, north and south, she is indeed telling the truth. And she's had the pleasure of being there for a number of years. I'm just grateful to be able to have a seat at the table. And I take it with such honor, yet blessings, because I know God is truly moving, and I just it's just definitely overwhelming, just the love and support that comes behind it. But you all mark your calendar, August 1st through the 3rd. If you have never visited Clemson, it's okay. You don't have to be a fan. As she said, they kind of slightly turn her in some from Alabama to Clemson. But even if you don't have to switch team, when we
No,
look at the
I know. I said,
camaraderie of teams and how we go at it, that's just genuinely love amongst each other. But when you also look at the cause behind the effort in which is going on, and again, Mr. Buckingham has poured out his heart along with Homer and a couple of other, Ricky Sapp, a couple of other guys that are definitely paying it forward. That's something I heard you said earlier. And I just love what they're doing. As she mentioned, that Friday's tailgate. When I tell you all that Best Western is the best Western that I've ever seen, if you haven't been there yet, you have to check it out. It's nice. That Best Western is nice. So definitely, I mean, a nice open area with TVs, and your kids would enjoy it. The big conference room. So that's that Friday, the tailgate. The Saturday, as she mentioned, that morning, you get to go on tour. So again, it gives chance for young people to actually go on campus and really see Clemson behind the scenes. Then that Saturday evening, you can, as she mentioned, you can dress up in your Western. This year they're having a Western style, so you're able to Go online and get your tickets. Now, again, these things don't look just look at it as it's a cause towards the efforts in which they're working towards. But think about everything you're getting back from it. You're getting free food all day, basically Friday. Your kids are able to get exposure, which a lot of kids don't typically get. And you also are getting school supplies. And when I tell you they give, trust me, okay. And then that Sunday, you don't have to be a person that plays golf, but just to be able to be centered around individuals that are so down to earth, celebrities, NBA players, NFL players that are coming back, just to be able to pay their ties back to the effort that Wayne Buckingham and others saw fit. It's great, and I'm just loving the fact of just being able to be a part of it. So again, August, I know I have said it again, and I'm gonna say it again. August 1st through the 3rd, you all, Clemson, South Carolina. We'll definitely share things on my page, Ms. Lou Newton page. There is an Orange and White Weekend page as well, so you can follow that page for all updates. We also have a fundraiser. So, as individuals, businesses, your churches, your community, if you want to continue to get yourself out there, just give exposure, there is a fundraiser with yard signs that you can purchase, and these yard signs will be placed throughout Clemson. Where that current Best Western is, it's like literally right around the corner from the university. So, I mean, that's a lot of major traffic that you would be able to, showcase you. So again, follow my page, follow the Orange and White Weekend page, follow Ms. Newton page as well, because
Hi.
she's doing great things. And I definitely want to give you an opportunity as we close out. I first want to thank everyone that has tuned in tonight. I'm hopeful that you were able to find some type of inspiration from her story, that it will be able to be impactful as you continue to benefit from you being grounded. Remember your circle. Remember the people that you know is genuinely, not just people, but as she mentioned, genuinely giving you that encouragement, that push. And remember that 14-year-old little girl in your left hand, but be reminded of the young lady in your right. So whether you men or women, just be reminded of the shift, that what people might have said you couldn't be, you wasn't going to be, you're not good enough to be, because you could have been a woman, you won't be. But look at, okay. So, nevertheless, we're just grateful just again honor you, recognize you as we pay it forward for Women History Month. But I also want to give you a chance, if you want to leave the viewers, your friends, your families, for those that have not been following you, but probably would definitely tap into you now. Where could they find you? Is there any other last minute things that you want to share?
Well, yeah, I mean, just, always keep your feet on the ground while you're reaching for the stars. And, you can find me on all social medias. There are two Lee Newtons, me, and there's another Lee Newton, and she's got blonde hair too. So, but I am the real Lee Newton. But yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. So yeah, just follow me. A lot of times, if you put music after my name, it'll pull up. I do utilize my Facebook personal page more than my Lee Newton music, just because so many people were following me on there. So I just kind of, hey, well, I just turn it into everything, and I will share over to there. And if you want to check out my website, it's LeeNewtonOfficial.com.
Yes, ma'am. You all heard it for yourself, and you all also had an opportunity to take a seat at the table as we heard a little bit behind the scenes about Lee Newton herself. So, again, I thank you for what you're doing. I thank you for your courage. I thank you for just being you. And I ask that you continue to pave the way. So, you all, I want to give you two local updates that are going on. April 26th, there will be a benefit ride, a young lady, 13-year-old out of Georgetown County, South Carolina, with a hit and run accident, left her pretty much hospitalized for some time up to current. And so myself with TR Development, Mr. Tank Graham, Mr. Kevin Graham, we decided to come together as a unit and want to put on this benefit ride for some of the proceeds to go towards her and her family, but other community initiatives that we have seen out there that we want to pay tribute to. So you all mark your calendar for April 26th, but also May 31st. I always say in the big city of Trio, you all, we will have the second annual Saddle Up event. And coming by the way of Greenville, South Carolina, is Mr. Frank Johnson with his hit song "Hate on Me" and or "Don't Step on My Shoes." He will be in Trio, South Carolina, you all. Uh, I just love it. The big city is growing, and we're going to continue to strive and thrive. And so, if you haven't got your tickets yet, we're on Eventbrite. Go in there and grab your tickets. But there are a lot of things going on in Winsburg County for the month of May. So just stay tuned. But don't forget, August 1st through the 3rd, Lee Newton herself. And we want to thank you again for taking a seat at the table. Until next time, you all, we thank you all for broadcasting Results with Rouse. Stay tuned.
Bye.